Shiny friends, I'm Sara Sach, and welcome to my crochet channel, or welcome back. Now this is our second pattern in our Christmas in July for 2024, and it's super cute. It's just a little Christmas stuffy. It measures about 12 inches tall, and at its widest point, I think it's about 10 inches. So it's a nice size little stuffy. I called it a pillow because it's really bigger than an Ammy. We crocheted the star, and you can decorate it however that you want to. It's really versatile and fun. I chose to use traditional stockings, candy canes, a Christmas light, Christmas decorations. I just chose to keep it traditional, but you can make this in any colors that you want to and use any type of embellishments that you want. And we'll talk more about that when we get into what you need to make it. And it's really simple, it's really easy, and it's really fun. And it's a little bit silly too. The idea of this is just to make something that would make a nice decoration as well as a nice gift. And if you squish it up just right, it'll fit inside a stocking. Although some of those stockings nowadays are huge. So this is our little Christmas stuffy. You can find the complete pattern on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our Christmas tree pillow or Christmas tree little stuffy, we're going to be using the Premier Parfait Chunky, and this color is called Seaweed Green. If you want to look at the other colors they have in this Parfait Chunky, they also have a pom-pom parfait that's super pretty. I'll put my Premier link down in the notes under this video, and you can go and check out the other colors that they have. Now I'm going to be using traditional colors. I'm going to make my tree portion green. I'm going to make the star in the yellow. And then I have all these different components. Now, before we talk about those, we're going to talk about our crochet hook. Now, this yarn calls for an 8mm crochet hook. But because we're making a stuffy and we want our stitches to be closer together, we're going to use a 6mm, which is a J hook. 6mm. You need a needle with a nice wide end on it, but if you're going to be sewing on buttons, remember you're going to need a needle that's going to be able to get through those little holes, and of course a big one will not. Okay, so keep that in mind for the buttons that you choose. And then of course you're going to need a pair of scissors. Now, if you're going to be sewing on some buttons, I do recommend that you get a medium weight number 4 yarn that matches the color green for sewing on your buttons so that it doesn't show. All right? All right, now let's talk about all the components that we have here on the table. Now, I have a bunch of buttons and stars and different types of embellishments. And these are all choices up to you. You can add as many decorations as you want. I have this beautiful star button. I could use this on the top of my tree if I wanted to. And it also depends on who's going to be playing with this stuffy. If you're going to be making this for a child, I do recommend that you really attach those buttons and components on really snugly, and you might even use just a dab of hot glue to hold them in place. That's just a recommendation. You don't have to do that. Now, when it comes to eyes, if you're going to make your stuffy have an eye, or I should say have a face, because it's going to need 2 eyes, I have lots of ideas here. We have these great big green eyes that I used on a spider last year, and I've been saving them for a project, but I'm not going to use them today. They're a little bit big for what I want to do, but if you want nice big eyes, you can certainly use those. Those are 24mm eyes. All right, and then we have some other choices. These are safety eyes. I've got some green ones that are like cat eyes, just some brown ones. And if you're going to use safety eyes, I don't recommend you let children play with this unless you use some hot glue to really attach those on, because they're easy to pull out if they're chewing or playing with those. Another idea is some of these types of eyes. Now this says they are adhesive, but I would still use a hot glue or maybe an E6000 if I'm going to use some eyes like these or these that I'm going to attach. Another idea is just to make some crochet eyes, and you can do that. There's lots of different patterns out there for crochet eyes, or you can just use a nice big French knot. That's all totally up to you and what you want to do with your Christmas tree stuffie. We are going to give it a loop on top, as you saw in that first portion of the video, so it can be hung up as a decoration. I think I'm going to put mine up on my mantle as sort of my first Christmas tree decoration, because I like to put my Christmas decorations out a little at a time. A lot of people bust it all out and do the whole house, but I do just a little bit at a time. And I have some other things that I've always put up on my mantle as well. All right, so the choice is up to you. What buttons and components that you want to use. You can make it with a face or without a face. It's totally up to you. Oh, and don't forget, you're going to need some stuffing for your pillow. I have one of my Christmas trees already made. You're going to need to make two because we're going to need a front and a back, and then we're going to put them together, stuff them, and add all the different decorations and components. We're going to start at the top of the Christmas tree and then increase down, okay? Now, we're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 3 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, and 3. That's the top point of our Christmas tree right there. All right, so now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, now for row 2, we've chained 3 and turned our work. We're going to double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, so that gave us 2, and then we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2. That's 3 and 4. And then we have our last stitch, which was the chain 3 from our row 1, and we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in that last stitch. 1 and 2. And chain 3. So, for row 1, we had 4 double crochets. For row 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can already see the top of our Christmas tree forming. All right, let's do row 3. We've chained 3. We're going to turn our work. 1 double crochet in that same stitch as our chain 3. And then 1 double crochet in the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The yarn just keeps following me, doesn't it? All right, so that leaves us 2 double crochets in our last stitch. 1 and 2. And chain 3. Got us a twist there. All right, so on row 3, we now have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let me give you a little hint about working with a fuzzy yarn and trying to find your stitches. All right, let's turn and do row 4. Now, what you can see if you look at the top are those little braids going across. And each one of those sets of 2 loops, it looks like a braid, but it's only 2 loops, is your stitch. And so I'm going to double crochet in the same stitch as my chain 3. So I'm going to go through those 2 loops and double crochet. Although I stitched that just a little bit loose. Let's tighten that up. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to stitch in each of these stitches across till I reach that last stitch. And so if you look, you can see those loops going across. So we'll go right in those loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that makes it easy to find the stitches. Like for the next row, we have those sets of loops on the top. And so now I'm going to stitch 2 double crochets in that last stitch. 1 and 2. This time I'm only going to chain 1. All right, so let's take a look at what we've done. So we started with 4, then we went to 6, then we went to 8, and now we have 10 double crochets for row 4. Now in this next row, we're going to make a little bit of the indentation here, and then we're going to come out and form our Christmas tree for the second little area of our tree. So we chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to slip stitch in the first 2 double crochets. So 1, 2. Now we're going to go to that third one, and we're going to slip stitch and chain 3. All right, and in this same stitch as our chain 3, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And you can already see how that's going to form that where it indents in and then it comes out as our Christmas tree. All right, so now we're going to place 1 double crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that leaves 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and in this next stitch we're going to stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to leave those last 2 stitches unworked. All right, and then we'll chain 3. We slip stitched in the first 2 and then slip stitch, chain 3, and then stitch 2 more in that same stitch. Okay, so that's 3. Then we stitched 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we stitched 3 in the last. 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 double crochets for row 5, and then we chained 3. So now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. We'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across, and remember you can find those stitches by looking at those loops on the top and work that across, 1 double crochet in each until we reach that last double crochet stitch, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in that last double crochet stitch. There we go. 1 and 2. And chain 3. So now we went from having 10 to having 12, and you can see the shape of our Christmas tree just popping right out at you. So row 6 had 12. We chained 3, and we're just going to repeat for the next 2 rows what we just did. 2 double crochets in the first, 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across, and 2 double crochets in the last stitch. So you'll increase by 2 stitches on the next 2 rows. So we're just going to repeat 2 double crochets in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in each double crochet across, and 2 double crochets in the last stitch, chain 3, and turn. For 2 rows. I have completed those 2 additional rows. We stitched 2 in the last stitch and then stitched through the middle, and so at row 8 we have 16 double crochets. After row 8 we only chained 1 because we're going to do that little indentation thing that we did up here so that we have 3 tiers of our Christmas tree. All right, so I chained 1, turn my work. We're going to slip stitch in the first two, just like we did earlier. Then we'll slip stitch in the next stitch and chain 3. Now we'll place 2 double crochets in the same stitch as our chain 3. 1 and 2. Now we're going to double crochet in the next 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, now the last stitch on this row, we're going to place 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. We'll go ahead and chain 3. All right, and then we left the last 2 stitches unworked. So we slip stitched in the first 2, then in the third one we slip stitched, chained 3, and then stitched 2 more double crochets in that same stitch. Then we stitched 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. Then in the next stitch we stitched 3 double crochets and left the last 2 unworked. So we have 16 double crochets. And this is row 9. We chained 3, turned our work, and now we're going to double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. Then we're going to double crochet in each of the stitches across. And then we'll place 2 double crochets in that last stitch. 1 double crochet in each across, and then in that last stitch we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. And so now for row 10 we have 18 double crochets. We're going to chain 3 and repeat. 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, and then 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across until we reach that last stitch, and then 2 double crochets in that last double crochet stitch. I have completed my Christmas tree, and again you're going to need 2 pieces, a front and a back. The first one, go ahead and tie off your yarn, but the second one you want to leave the yarn attached because we're going to use that. We're going to put the 2 sides together and we're going to work up the sides evenly, and then we'll leave the bottom open so that we can close it up. All right, so now we're going to evenly crochet up to this first point, and I'm going to show you what to do, but we're going to evenly single crochet, and you want to make sure you crochet your stitches close because we don't want any openings on the side of our little pillow. And you need to go through those sides of the stitches. All right, now we want to make sure everything's lined up. All right, so we'll just go in that indentation, and then we'll stitch up to the corner. We want this to be a nice corner. So what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet. We're going to make a little chain 1 and then single crochet right in that same spot. And that's going to give us a nice point for the corner. All right, and then we'll just work our way up to the next corner and we'll do the same thing. And we'll do that on all the corners, even the top of the Christmas tree. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 corners that will do that too. Okay, so we'll just evenly single crochet up the side, trying to go in those stitches and not the holes. And it is a little challenging because you are doing double crochets and thick yarn. Okay, but the key is just to get in those sides of the stitches. Try to keep everything lined up nicely. And these points of our Christmas tree are very important because that's what helps make it look like a Christmas tree. All right. All right, so this next stitch, I'm on the point. So I'm going to single crochet, chain 1, and then single crochet right in that same spot. And then I'll continue working up to the point at the top of my Christmas tree. And see how those points look? Nice and Christmas tree-ish. Alrighty, so I'm going to work on up here. I'll do the same thing here. Same thing all the way down to here. And then I'm going to go a little bit across the bottom and just leave an opening about this wide for stuffing. I have stitched evenly all the way around with my single crochets, and I placed a single crochet, chain 1, single crochets in each of the points, including the top one, except this one, and we'll do that one after we stuff it. But before we stuff it, if you're going to be using safety eyes, which I am, I'm going to use these cute little brown ones. I want to show you how to do that because you want to do that now before we stuff it. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of this out just to give me a little bit more room to get my hand up there. Now, what you want to do is when you put a safety eye in crochet, you want to make sure you go in a stitch and not between the stitches. All right, I'm going to put them up here. I think that's a little too close together. Let's see. I'm going to come down a little, put it about right there. All right, I'm right in a stitch, as you can see. Then I'm going to snap that on until I hear the snap. And now I have my safety eye on and it's in a stitch. Now, a suggestion is, if you're worried about that coming out, you can always put some E6000 or some super glue or hot glue on the back to keep it in place. All right. All right. I'm going to try to even it up here. Let's see. I came in about 3 here. I'm on this row, so I'm going to put it about right here. Let me set it in there and see how that looks. Yeah, I like that. And I'm right in a stitch. So I'm going to put the back on until I hear it snap. That tells you it's in good. All right, so now my Christmas tree has some eyes. And I'm going to go ahead and stuff it. Now, this type of stuffy, I don't do a real tight stuff. I just want it to be a little bit squishy. We want to make sure we get that up in the top of the Christmas tree in those pointy areas. But don't put too much stuffing. You have to kind of watch because you don't want the stuffing to show through your stitches, okay? And this is just a squishy, so it doesn't have to be super full of stuffing. And I like to put it in and then kind of move it around a little bit. Because mine's going to be more of a decoration, but you know what? My grandkids are going to play with this, and I don't want that stuffing coming out when they're playing. Of course, they're all in their teens almost. My youngest one's always going to be 12 in September. And so they're still pretty, they're still pretty rambunctious, but they're not as silly about this sort of stuff as they used to be. Okay, so once you get your stuffing in, you can move it around a little bit, see where you like it, you know. Like that one, I got a bump there, so I'm going to push that over a little bit. Make sure my stuffing's not showing through. All right, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to finish stitching across the bottom. There we go. And closing it up with single crochets. And then on this corner, I'm going to do a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and then join to my first single crochet. And then I'm going to show you how to make a pretty star out of the yellow yarn so that it looks super pretty on the top of your Christmas tree. But remember, you don't have to do a crochet star if you don't want to. So I've got my safety eyes in, all secure. I've stuffed and closed up the bottom of my Christmas tree. It's super cute. And I want to make a star for the top of my tree. Now I could use this beautiful sparkly button, and that would be really pretty, but I want to make a crochet star. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So we're basically going to make a 5-petal flower. All right, so we're going to take our yarn. We're going to chain 2, and in that second chain from the hook, we're going to stitch 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, we're going to go ahead and join to that first single crochet with a slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll go to the next single crochet and slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. And then slip stitch, and one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Join to that first single crochet. And now we're going to cut our yarn, but we're going to leave ourselves a little bit here so that we can attach that to our Christmas tree. Now, the first thing we're going to do is make sure we don't have a hole in the center. I don't this time. Sometimes I do, and so then I'll want to close that up. But this time I don't have a hole. And so I'm going to put this down here so that I can attach it to the Christmas tree. All right, and this is the way that our star looks. So I made sure there wasn't a hole in the center of my star. And now I'm going to attach it to the top of my Christmas tree. We don't want to sew the petals down or the points. We just want to attach it through the center. All right, so we want to be real careful not to go all the way through to the back. And so I'm just going to go in the front layer like this. And we'll just make a couple of stitches to make sure that it's going to stay put. Just going through and back up in the center. And I usually just sort of make an X. Because again, we want this to be able to be played with, but also stay secure. And I just do this until I feel like it's going to stay put. I'll give it a couple of good tugs. I think I want one more stitch there on the bottom. And then I'm going to go down inside that stuffing to the back. I didn't leave myself enough to make a knot, so I'm going to have to just stuff that in there. And it'll hold good. It's not a problem. I usually like to put a little knot in the end, but that's going to hold just fine. And there is my Christmas star at the top of my Christmas tree. So I'm just going to do that simple little V smile. I've grabbed some of my Basics Chanel in red yarn, also a Premier yarn, and we're going to make that little V. So I'm going to come down here and make sure you go in a stitch and not in a hole, or it's not going to hold. And also, when you're stitching on like this, go ahead and go through some of that stuffing. That's going to help it also stay put. There we go. Kind of pulled that a little, didn't I? And I like to go over it twice. All right, I'm going to pull this to the back. All right, and then we'll grab that other one, pull it to the back. Use my crochet hook. It's kind of hard. All right, I'll just have to grab it with my needle. There we go. Stick that down in there. There's my mouth. There we go. I'm trying to pull that just a little bit snugger. There we go. Now she has a nice smile. I need to deal with this, of course. I'm going to put that on the end of my needle. What I like to do is kind of, when they're short like that, I'll go up through, hook it on the needle, and then pull it through. I just didn't leave enough. There we go. And then we'll do this one with the little knot so it stays put. And then we'll just stick that back inside. All right, so now my cute little Christmas tree has a little smile and a little star. And now I can just add some embellishments. Okay, and so I've got lots of fun things that I can add. Now, if you do not want to put a face on it, you can just decorate it like a regular Christmas tree and put all sorts of decorations and different things on it. You know, it depends on who you're making this for. If you're making this for someone that maybe likes dogs or cats, you could do puppies and kitties and paw prints and fish and different things like that. If it's someone who really likes gingerbread, add a gingerbread. You know, put some packages at the bottom. Just have some fun with it. It's just so much fun. And there are so many different kinds of buttons and creativity that you can have making one of these Christmas stuffies. So I added some fun buttons to my Christmas tree to look like ornaments. I found some candy canes. And a lot of these fun Christmas buttons, just FYI, I found them in the scrapbooking department in Hobby Lobby as well as Joann's. For some reason, they keep all the cutesy buttons over there. So this is our little Christmas tree stuffy. I think it's adorable. And the thing about this is you can decorate it however you want. You can leave off the eyes and the smile and just make it just a Christmas tree, you know, just for decorating, whatever your theme is. And you don't have to do traditional Christmas colors. Just have some fun with it.